Another product review. I occasionally do Harbor Freight product reviews, and here's one on their 1/4-inch trim router. So let's get busy, unbox, and see what all is inside. Yeah, most of my Harbor Freight reviews are on automotive related products, but I do at times. This router is an exception, and in the past I did their planer. Okay, the first thing we stumble across in the box is the instruction sheet, which it's a guideline, but as with all their tools, I've had pretty good luck with most of their tools, but the instruction sheet does have some to be desired, and there is our guide that comes with the router. Okay, and next out of the box is the fence, view around it, and up next is the fence bracket. We'll be later on assembling this on the router, and 2 bolts with wing nuts in. And here we have a bag with wrenches to change your bits, knobs, which will be used to mount the fence, and brushes as an extra set in. And there's another look, just see what's in the bag before we empty it all out. And here, of course, is the main part of the kit, the router itself. And once I get it out of the box, it's firmly in there. Okay, well, yeah, finally, maybe. It's out. The styrofoam had it kidnapped. And take it out of the plastic yet. Get it out. It was wrapped good for shipment and spending lots of time in storage, I'll say that. And there is our router. And I must say the router feels very well made. It feels like it should cost more than it does. And just a view from all angles on it. And here's our trim guide we're going to be installing. And if you look here closely on the base part, that's the clear plastic part, of course, at the bottom, there's a hole drilled and threaded for the attachment knob that holds the trim guide to the router. Alrighty, and in our bag of goodies, here is our little knob to hold the trim guide on the router. Get that out and grab our trim guide, and let's mount this up. Again, you could use this freehand without it, but I just want to show the mounting and that of it, since this is a product review and more or less how to get going, so you know how to use all the options that come with this router. No magic here. That attachment knob just turns clockwise to tighten, just normal, and counterclockwise to loosen. I'm going to take this base off by loosening the base knob and install the bit there with this base off there, just to show you easier how it does go in. And furthermore, in my opinion, it's just easier to install with the base off. I have a full-size router, that's what I always do. And there's the router bit I'm using for the demonstration. And just slide it in the arbor. Push it in here once firmly. And then we're going to take our 2 wrenches. One's to tighten and one's to hold the arbor shaft, and we'll snug him up. There, the smaller one holds the arbor shaft, while the larger one, little wrench that comes with it, tightens the nut that holds the bit into place. And just snug that up. Don't have to be super crazy, but tight. And there it is, tightened in. Okay, now we're going to put our base back on. Line up this. Now this I think is a little bit, it's got like these little ridges cut in the plastic that this plastic cog goes up and down on, and it doesn't work the easiest. I mean, it works, but you can tell it's plastic against plastic. And there's also on that, it shows you there's a little rule scale that's hard to read how deep your bit is. And let us just have a closer look at the scale molded into the plastic along with the plastic cog, and moves it up and down with the notches molded in the plastic. You can see what I'm saying. And after looking at the close-up, you can see it just doesn't move the smoothest, and it probably down the road in the long run may be the weak spot on this router. But anyhow, now I have it adjusted for probably about an 1/8 inch cut, which is plenty since I'm going to be demonstrating an oak wood. Okay, and that knob there locks this guide in place. And this one on the outside, the lower one on the outside, adjusts the amount that goes in and out on the guide. And of course, the one farther up is what attaches the trim guide to the router itself, the attachment knob. And I'm just lining it up here with the woods, getting a rough idea how deep it will be cutting before we start into it. And besides the depth of the cut, make sure, and I am going to have to pull it down a little bit as you're saying, the roller wheel on the end of that guide is rolling against the wood. Before it was up above the edge of the wood and the roller wasn't actually riding against, but now we have it all set up and we're going to soon give it a try here. And there you can see right how it rides against the piece of wood. Alrighty, and now it's time to turn it off. The on and off toggle switch is right on the top of the router. And also here, going to adjust this trim guide. It just wasn't where I was quite satisfied with it. And I'm going to give a deeper cut with it. Now I wanted to turn on the wrong side. The side that looks like the wing nut is the one you loosen. Now in theory, when you loosen that, this should move easier up and down. It should move with just turning the other wheel, this cogged one I'm trying, give it a fine adjustment, but it don't work, so we'll take our fist, tap it down a little bit until it moves. Again, that is sort of something that if there's anything I don't like with this, but for the price of it, I can sure overlook it, is this deal on adjusting the height of it. Now we got it down a little bit more, and we're going to go trim some more, make a little deeper cut, and then a little bit farther. And it is doing a nice job cutting, considering this isn't even a new bit I put in it. And now I'm going to take and we're going to remove this trim router part, this trim guide, and we're going to demonstrate the fencing operation. But before we use the fence, we have to assemble the fence. And I'm going to take the wing nuts off and remove the bolts out of the fence brackets. First step before we go any farther. And I assume they put these bolts with it and wing nuts so you didn't get them mixed up with anything else. Of course, there isn't really a lot of parts in this, instead of just throwing it in the bag of parts. And there, the bracket goes under the same thing that the trim guide did and locks under that attachment knob. And now we use our bolts here, stick up through the bottom. At least that's how I'm interpreting the instructions. And you take on the top here, and you install a washer, and then you put the wing nut on. And the old saying's true, after we put the one in, one good turn deserves another. We'll put the other bolt, washer, and wing nut on the lower. And you see how that fence bracket has the oblong shaped grooves cut in at holes that it allows it to move back and forth, that you can adjust the amount how far you want to cut into a piece of wood and adjust the distance. Okay, get this second wing nut tightened up here, and we're about ready to try this. But before we do, we're going to give you a close view here of what it looks like mounted on the router. There's the fence bracket underneath the adjustment knob. There's the underneath side of it, and we're ready to soon give this a try. And here, I'm just going to show you a little bit more. By loosening these wing nuts just a little bit, you can slide the fence back and forth to cover a range of measurements across the piece of wood you need to make a trim cut into. Alrighty, for the sake of this video, since I'm not actually Don't need anything routed at an exact spot. Just to demonstrate it, I'm just going to tighten it down here at a particular spot just to show the fence in operation. But before doing so, I have to lower the base of the router down again, because if you remember, we were fairly deep on that second cut. And again, this is old hard oak wood there, and as usual, it's being stubborn. Yeah, again, I can work around this, but this is sort of the one thing that is a little bit of an aggravation. My old router, just like the whole base turns and they're threaded around, but it does work. Alrighty, there we made about a foot or a little bit over a foot long groove in this just to demonstrate it works. Take the clamp off, and you can see that the router bit's about a 1/2 inch wide, and we were cutting about an 1/8 inch into the oak, and it did a nice cut, and the fence did great, making a nice straight line with it. Before we completely wrap this video up, let me show you this trim guide here a little closer. You see this knob here. This is what holds it on the base of the router. If you just loosen it, it slides right off. And a little bit more explanation there than earlier in the video. If you turn this outer knob, which is part of it, that will adjust this roller in and out. If you actually look when I turn it, you can see it moving out. Then if you bring it back in, it will bring it in. And you can see it moving. And to lock it in place is the knob on the bottom. And once you do that, then this really isn't going to do anything, and you don't want to force on it or you'll break it. And just one more time here on this fence. This here part is what goes up in under the knob on the router. Like I said, it's just an overview. And same deal, and you can just take and tighten the knob on the side of the base, and that holds it in place, and you can loosen it accordingly to how thickness of wood you're working on to bring it down or bring it back up. Alrighty, thank you for watching this video on the Harbor Freight to Drillmaster trim router. Hope you found it informative, useful. I don't see any reason for the hobbyist, amateur, why not to buy it. At the price, it's roughly around $33 to about $35, and with Harbor Freight you usually can get those 20% off coupons. You'll get it even cheaper. Perhaps if you were using one of these for 5-6 plus hours a day working professionally, then maybe I'd say you should go into something more professional, but for what most people are going to do, it will serve the bill. Alrighty, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to click that like button, comment below, and I'd appreciate any subscriptions.